Welcome to another exciting and thrilling episode of Dan and Abram versus Life. Today we have a very special edition, and that is our traffic copter that apparently Abram is sitting in front of.
I'm in a traffic
Overlooking.
copter right now, Dan. We're about 15 stories, 150 feet above the 275 here in Tampa, Florida. And there was a big up a 3-car pile up on the bridge earlier today, but they've gotten that cleared up, and it looks like it's smooth sailing over to the mall in Tampa Bay. So you're good to go if you were heading for St. Pete's, North St. Pete's. Back to you, Dan.
Abram, can you please tell our listeners if they are planning to go out tonight, whether it's to a social gathering or sporting event, should they leave a half hour early,
No,
or
you're
will they be okay
pretty
with
good
nothing?
right now. It looks like I can see all the way to the Tampa Bay Mall. So if you're planning on going from the Tampa Island or anywhere around the stadium or the airport in Tampa Bay, traffic's looking clear right now. It's actually lightened up quite a bit from our earlier rush hour, 8 p.m. And you should be good to go. Give it about 15 minutes.
I'm telling you, man, I don't know what other podcast, other than if it's a podcast about traffic reports. I don't think any other podcast has a traffic report. So I think that
Yeah,
right there put us in a
I
10%.
I can also give you the weather forecast. It is clear skies right now, and that's it.
And that's it. Well, that's all we need to know, man.
Yeah,
That's all we need
that's
to
it.
know.
We always
Is it
joke if it's raining outside or if it's wet outside, it's raining. If it's dry outside, it's sunny. If there's snow on the ground, it's snowing. Yeah, that's the forecast.
I don't know if you know this, but it rained this morning in Los Angeles.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it rained this morning, so I'm happy to announce that the city smells slightly less like piss now. So
Yeah.
the rain washed some of the fecal matter and urine away. So it is no, it came out of nowhere, man. It was like 4 in the morning, and I just looked over, and then when I looked out my window, it was dry, and then I just look over, and it's what like almost like just a massive, just fell down within like 15 minutes, and then just went to this cool little mist. So it was neat. You don't get to like if you know live in LA, you don't get to see it rain a lot. So
And then there's been times when it's rained so bad there was like flooding in the streets and all sorts of gnarly shit. But I really like LA, like after a rain or a big wind, and like the air gets really clean, and like you can see all the way to the mountains, and like you're like, wow, there's really pretty mountains all around LA.
oh yeah, and that's a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't realize that because unfortunately the smog covers like whenever you see long shot to the city, you don't get to see those mountains like the Verduga Hills are behind them. The I forget what the Hollywood Hills are actually called. I live
The
on the back
Hollywood
side of
Hills.
them. They are, but there's like we call them the Hollywood Hills, but it's like
Yeah.
they have an official name, and I'm trying to think of what they are. And I live literally right on the other side of them, so I should know. I literally catch shade from them, but
The Burbank Range or something. I don't know, man.
it could be. I don't know. So
Anyway.
we we introduced. Well, we've been pleading with people
Mhm.
to write us emails, and we
Wait.
finally got an email. And you know what, man, it turned out to be a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be. So I have to reach out. I have to
Yeah.
say, we're going to call this gentleman T Dog because I don't know if he wants us to completely use his name or not. I told him I wouldn't, so
All
that's
right.
good. So we put it out there for people to email us any questions, any comments, any concerns, anything like that. And we just wanted to kind of extend that feel of community to everyone that listens to us. And we really didn't put a cap on exactly what we were looking for. We kind of wanted it to be anything, like
Yeah.
just talk to us. So T Dog reached out.
T
Uh,
Dog reached out all right.
T Dog reached out. Uh, his email reads as such: Listen to you guys a lot. Just wondering why Abram's feet are bare outside in the pic. Maybe you should get a new pic. If not, that's cool too. I'll still listen.
So here was my first reaction. I have had a friendly neighborhood stalker, if you could call it that. I mean, everybody's a stalker on Facebook, but this one was, creepy. But he was joking most. It was kind of joking just enough, and it was always these flirty comments about my feet, my socks, and it was definitely bizarre and weird. But this big bearded man, I love those socks, or like, ooh, can I smell your socks sometime?
Oh my
Really
God,
weird
dude.
shit. Really weird shit. Like, ooh, I'll oil your toes. What kind of socks are you wearing in that picture? You're like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Some weird shit. But whatever. They're regular Under Armour black socks. Ooh. But like,
Ooh.
I let it go on, and never blocked or anything, just because it was funny enough. I didn't take it too seriously. Where in reality, I probably should have taken that shit a lot more seriously, because there's so many kooks out there
Yeah.
that, maybe I should take that a lot more seriously when people are actually starting to make weird comments, and like, you're like, maybe I shouldn't open my life up to these strangers, you know.
You know what's weird though is if you pay attention to, okay, so there's like this newscaster lady that I follow on Instagram because I think she's hot, right? And then she's a pretty girl, but her Instagram is just basically her uh kind of, oh, I'm here doing this story, or this festival's going on where I'm at. It's a very social, like professional page. And there is just people like, and you look at the comments, and it's like there's always one of those guys that just shows up in the comment section, and it's out of nowhere. It's like with her, it's always like, oh, hey, look, I'm here at the Corn Festival. You're like, oh, I love the Corn Festival. I grew up there. Oh, will you be ever going to such and such as festival? And also be like, oh, I want to smell your shoes. And you're like, what the fuck did that come from? Like, who thought?
Yeah.
But did it? Well, I at first thought it was
Why
so
is that a
funny.
fetish? Is what I want to know. Why? Why is that a fetish at all?
You know what, man? And it seems to go. I don't even think you can direct a foot fetish into just one category, because it seems to go in different directions. Like some
Yeah.
people are just into it in their bedroom, and then some people, like you say, fixate on it
Some people really like shoes too,
always.
or like want a foot in their mouth or something. I had a buddy. Sorry, I'm looking for some quotes that I'd put up for like the podcast as well. I had a buddy. He was fooling around with a girl. They're fucking. Actually, they weren't fooling around. They're fucking. Right.
Yeah,
It's just much more clear and direct to the point in order to illustrate.
absolutely. Yeah,
All right.
this isn't a Disney production. You can yeah.
She's on her back, and she slowly keeps reaching her foot up and her foot slowly keeps as she brings her foot up, and she's like trying to put her foot out into his mouth, and he's not into it. And he pushes the foot down, like kind of like tries to politely put it out of like still fucking. All of a sudden, here comes the other foot creeping up on the other side. The foot starts creeping up, creeping up. And he just like keeps on trying to put it down. She keeps trying to stuff her toes into his mouth. Finally, he grabs the legs, just pulls it down, like, stop putting your toes in my mouth.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I just like the subtlety of that. You do. Well, what I really love.
I think that's better than, like, at least, like the person, or you would hope you would know that person in that case, and like there's it's not just, an internet stalker. But anyway, T-Dog.
Yeah, like, so that was, well, what's funny at first is that we have discussed so much stuff on this podcast. We've discussed Israel and Palestine. We've discussed non-binary. We've discussed transgender. We've discussed the exit of Afghanistan, right?
And how to defend
schizophrenia.
Matter. Yes.
Yeah, people throwing shit. And the thing that got us the email, the thing that just pushed shit over the line, was Abram's foot. Your nasty feet was of all those things. That is what caused the outrage.
Yeah. What's up? Like, and like, I'm not sure. Is he concerned for my well-being? Like, I'm poor and I can't afford shoes, is what he's saying. I'm not sure.
Oh, well, here you go. I'm gonna move on with this now, because I don't want to. Yeah, I'm gonna let you know how this went. Because at first, when he was just talking about your feet and there's that weird fixation, the first thing in my mind was like, he's a serial killer.
Yeah,
like clearly, like he's gonna cut your feet off. But no, it's not. Actually, it goes on where T-Dog is not as strange. It's not as strange as we originally thought. I think because like our past with certain things, like you immediately go there, especially like that's one thing I'll tell anybody. If you ever wish to be on television for whatever reason, you're going to start getting people reaching out to you from all different walks of life. And you're going to start getting some very, very weird
Yeah.
comments and shit like that. And you're just going to have to learn
Because
to
maybe some
like,
really bad shit. Like I've had some really, I've had some really people who would create different accounts on a weekly basis, and try and like, harass me and family members or, somebody else or friends, and you're like, who has that much time on their hands to create a new account every week and try and like, like do shit. You're like, I don't understand it, but it's out there.
well, it's like there's people who, and I'm sure we can talk to Dr. Timmy about this next time he's on, is that there's people who only have one window into their lives. They're shut-ins. The only window they have is either a television program that they watch or a video game or whatever, and that is the whole focus of their entire life. And they lose complete touch of reality, and they don't understand that they're going over the line because they don't understand the line. But that is
That's a
not
whole nother episode that we've been talking about doing too.
yeah.
Is how people are beginning to interact with social media and like how we don't know what we're doing with this tool yet, because you don't even have to be inside and at a laptop anymore. You can be anywhere, and just it's just so easy to be a troll without repercussion. But anyway, moving on.
So
to this email.
T-Dog turns out to like not like, all right. So I reach out, just kind of, I wanted to feel this out, right? Yeah. I'm like, should Abram be worried about his well-being with this gentleman's fascination on his feet? But so I just kind of reached out, and my comment to him was kind of like, hey man, we appreciate your support. We are very happy to hear that you're enjoying the podcast. Abram is barefooted because we were just hanging out one day. When someone took the picture, we really didn't think much of it. You were the first to comment on that, so we were just wondering, out of curiosity, why that caught your attention. We are open to all different outlooks on things and are interested to hear what people, have to say, and we can better learn from our audience. So please, that's what I reached out to him, kind of like, interested but wanting to. And I think like he kind of caught where we were going with this, and I think he kind of like looked back on himself, was like, oh shit, that might have come across really fucked up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh man, that's not what I meant. Like, we don't know. This guy could work as an air traffic controller, and he just has times, and he just, maybe tired. But yeah, he just like, yeah, you really worded that nicely. I have no idea why it caught my attention. Maybe because I listen to other podcasts and look at their photos, and they're just so sporadic. Maybe I'm just a random person who looks at the world differently. I'm not really sure. I thought it was unique because a unique picture. But I think you all could do better. Which, yeah, we always
could do a better picture. We could do better.
We could. I'd never really thought it was that big. But he brings up a good point. He goes, it's awesome because I watch Survivor and Naked and Afraid, and sometimes I think to myself, my feet would never last. Pretty much, I hate going outside barefoot unless I'm getting a beer. So no worries,
Unless I'm getting a beer.
Unless he's getting a beer, like he's gonna go outside and grab a beer.
Huh.
Maybe he's outside barbecuing. He has a cooler next to him.
I don't know. That seems odd. Like that's the one place I want to have shoes on when I go out to a bar. I make sure I have shoes on because of potential conflicts.
True, but no, not. He's like, I think he's just like going outside to grab one.
I guess. Is this
like some people keep refrigerators in their garage and they don't keep their beer in their food refrigerator. They step outside. Is that a Missouri and clearly a Texas thing?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
It didn't. So he's from Texas. So that's what I assumed it was.
Huh.
And he just stepped out. But basically, where I'm picking up on this and where I kind of want to go with it is I know people like this. There's people that fixate on certain body parts, and it's not a sexual thing. It's more like okay, so with me, my hands, all right? I have fucked my hands up, my head and my back. I fucked them up real quick. And damn it hurts and all that stuff. So when I see things, people doing things, if they're doing something to their hands, head, or back, it just sticks out in my mind. It just resonates because it's just my past, how I feel with it or whatever. The feet thing is because I used to work with these like older Hispanic guys. And they told me one day, because I would just like change my shoes, and we had a tile floor. and I would just put my foot bare, and they would be like, no, 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 mijo, no. And they'd like run and grab a towel. They'd put it down. And they were telling me that as you get older, like the change in temperature can crack your feet and cause a lot of pain in that. So it's like their mind is that, experience has made them wiser to that, and maybe they fixate on it. And I'm thinking our friend T-Dog probably just has had some bad experiences with like actual injuries or anything like that with the feet. So now that's literally where he always looks. My cousin also is obsessed with eyeballs. Anything that's near an eye, cuts, anything like that, he picks up on it right away, and it just kind of like irks him. It's just some weird. So that's what I think it was. I think it went from like from like what we thought was sexual to just like it's just some kind of focus that we have, probably for completely other reasons. So he's not a serial killer, or if not, he's better at hiding it than we thought he was. But what I just thought was funny is I told him, I said, all right, man, no, that sounds reasonable, but I'm just letting you know I'm gonna fuck with Abram about his feet, like regardless. The fact that that's the first complaint email. I shouldn't say complaint. He really didn't care. He was just like,
but it was like we were expecting very different emails, and
yes,
and I'm still getting other messages like on Instagram and whatnot, and those are great, but like we're really trying to send it to the Dan and Abram versus life at gmail.com. That's where we're trying to send stuff to. Okay.
So right now we have a concern over Abram's feet. If you guys can top that,
when I'm in the house. I just take my shoes off when I'm in the house. It's like immediately. Shoes go off. Yeah, you're like.
I'm lucky. I have clothes on at all.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Like I want to be as naked as possible, as often as possible would be the ideal scenario. Yes.
And also, man, I'll say this: when I was a kid, and I think part of it was like, even though I was, raised in a North St. Louis County, I had family that was, lived out in the country near the lake and that. So as a kid, I kind of got like just of walking around barefooted. I walked on gravel roads barefooted. I didn't even give a shit. So it's like
that's heavy. That's intense. You got to really build up to that. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, as a kid, I don't know if I was just too stupid or too lazy to put shoes on, but it was crazy because it would be like, I remember being hot and gravel. And I'd be like, we'd be walking back from like where we were swimming, and it was I don't know, I was an idiot.
Have you heard about like people talking about how since our bodies are made up where we have electromagnetic fields, and there's like an inhibitor, which would be rubber, that we're not getting, and the earth grounds electricity, that we're not getting the amount of grounding, electrical grounding, that is natural to our physical makeup that has been for millions of years. And like I was like, oh, that's a really, like, I never thought of that, but yeah, it totally makes sense. Your ground, you take electrical, you ground it to the earth because it grounds it out. We've got an electrical circuit always running, and so like I liked that idea. I don't know, maybe we'll see research, and maybe somebody out there can tell us some research that is already out there that would support that. But I try and walk barefoot or kick my shoes off. Like if I can go to the park, it's like, yeah, there's gonna be some dog shit and dog piss and whatever, like goose piss or birds. I want to walk around in the grass, like bare feet on the grass as often as possible, bare feet on the beach, so like where and when I can. I don't know about gravel roads. That's not my favorite.
When I want that current back into me, I just do the electric slide at weddings. I figure that
it was pretty good, Dan. That was pretty good.
That gets it into me.
That was quite witty, very English of you. Kahada would be proud of you for that one. 5 points. 5 points.
I saw there's a comedian. Well, funny. His name is Matthew Broussard. If anyone could check him out, he's got stuff online. He recently did like a couple specials for Comedy Central, and I had the pleasure of being his opening act for like a few days. And we have tons of stories of like going to this like shithole bar, and these guys like, because where we were booked, it was a comedy club, but then we went and they also had like partnerships where we would go out to these like really nice like lake resorts, but still near like redneck country. So we did this terrible show one night where these dudes wouldn't shut the fuck up, and we literally it was just like a back and forth with these guys, and the security wouldn't kick them out, and it was literally a nightmare. But then we went on to do this whole week at a comedy club in a college town, and it was amazing. So, but I got to spend some time with him, and he's cool guy, but he has that kind of comment. He has that like very matter of fact, but it's so spot on. And he has a joke, and the reason I brought that on is he has a joke where he literally is talking about basically like how are men supposed to know anything, are supposed to know what women want. And he literally goes, Jesus, even the Spice Girls, they're like the epitome of girl power, and they didn't even know what they really, really want. It's just one of the. So Matthew Broussard, check him out. His whole humor is that stuff. So my shitty attempt at that was my electric slide joke, which like
I thought that was on point. I got it. Like, you know, that was good. That was good. It was solid. It was on, like, you made it up on in the moment. Very good. Excellent.
Yes. Thank you. But, you know, I also had to save myself from being apparently Huck Finn walking on gravel road. You know what? I always thought too, like, my mom was always hella country, you know, like, because when her dad passed away, she went to live out there. So she left from like literally the hood of St. Louis City out to the sticks, dude, where she's so growing up when we would go out to the country, you know, to the lake to visit her family out there. That was like more, I think, when like her countryside would take in, you know, and like, dude, she'd walk barefooted everywhere. She didn't give a shit. Like, it didn't phase her. So I think I saw her and just did that. To where my dad, who's like supposed to be the rugged, tough guy, would be the one like, what the fuck are you doing? Would you put some shoes on? Like, but she would just like, she was one with the land at that point. So I think that's why the gravel road, I saw her do it and I was going to do it. There's a lot of shit that I look back on that I didn't question and I probably should have questioned. But it's just, you know, like the fact that I used to watch a guy, I think we talked about this. I watched a guy clean the snapping turtles. And I asked him one time, like, how does he catch him? And he said he put his foot, and he was going to take me with him. He said, you're going to take me with him? I remember that. And he put his foot in the water by the tree stumps. And if he'd feel something, he'd reach down and he'd pull up the tail. And I asked him what happens if he grabs the wrong side. And he literally just showed me his hand where a finger was missing. And I'm 5. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't even give a shit. He's like, yeah, this is what happens. Snapping turtle pull your fucking finger off. And like, yeah, of course I didn't want to get into the water for like, you know, a week after that.
But no, I never want to get in again, man.
Good times, man. That's all I could say. There's a whole other episode on that, but I actually I did a show. I featured at a show. Shit, when the fuck was it? Was it last Sunday? I'm all over the place. Basically, I closed it out, and as I was talking, something on stage reminded me of them, and I kept saying how, like, as a kid looking back, it was really funny because my country family would always respond to everything with "get him" or "tell him." You know, you'd complain, they'd be like, "Get him!" Well, tell him. You know, it was tell him, and it would be anything. And I remember like there's a snake in our swimming area, and I think it was a water moccasin. I think it was a water moccasin, but it could have just been regular water snake. I don't know. But I told like the guy, and they always like I see them in my memories. They always have bush beer and cigarettes in their mouth, and I'd be like, there's a snake in the water. Like, you know, should we? That's our swimming area. We need to. And they'd be like, well, tell him. He needs to tell him. Go get him. And I remember like they just watched me walk over there, and it's like, what if I did get bit? They didn't give a fuck. Like I think they knew. I know, honestly, I think they knew I wouldn't touch it. But it's just that.
But then again, at the same time, like maybe they didn't.
Maybe they. But it's a different. Like they're a different. I always try to tell people like it's a different mindset. Like you got to figure shit out there. You know what I mean? It's more like, okay, you got to, but I know they were joking too. They were so funny. That whole side of my family is extremely sweet. So they would never, I find it so hard for them to ever think that they would let me get hurt. So it had to be joking. But you know, when you're a kid, you just remember everything. So like, you know, immediate, maybe it was just the fact the guy showed me his severed finger at one point when I was, it just,
that memory stuck. It would stick with me too.
Because it's just funny that his name was Junior. I still remember that. And I mean, I was young, Abram. And I remember him having the snapping turtle, like, and he's pulling its head up, like, because they were getting ready to clean it. And I was just like, oh man, I was so fascinated. It was like, to me, this is before Jurassic Park, you know? these like alligator snapping turtles or whatever they pulled out. These things they were, that was the closest thing to dinosaurs I had. Yeah. Speaking of great of wild stories and great experiences, today, I get my email from you at like 2 a.m. Is that when he finished?
We finished at 4 a.m. my time. I got back to the hotel, so we
4 a.m. your time, about 1 mine.
Yeah, we finished tattooing right about 2 a.m. And well, he finished tattooing. I was just laying there, but I've got a friend. He's also a fellow Marine, and he's a real interesting dude. It was funny because like he's like, well, that was the closest I ever came to pimping, and I was like, Johnny, you were a pimp, you know, like he like I was just taking the girls to their dates and just making sure they're okay, you know, and then like when I would take them back from their dates, make sure they're all right, you know, and I just looked after their money for them, and you know, they just roll me a blunt and give me a beer and wash my balls and take care of me, you know. And I was like, Donnie, you were a pimp.
Yes,
And that
he
was
was.
like that was like the least wild stories, you know, and it's just so much fun. He's a really interesting fella. And that's a whole nother subject of like, you know, he's very Americana, interesting dude down in St. Pete's, multi-generational family of, you know, these bikers, you know, and he's rebuilding his own chopper in the shop, you know, where I'm getting tattooed, and he's really involved in his community, and he really cares about things. And like, you know, we don't agree on everything, you know, but and it was funny. We ended up having long conversations.
Well, how long were you in his chair?
So I got there at 1, and he finished. Like I told him, I'm going to show you here in a second. But I was thinking about getting this little. I was like, hey man, I told him about a month ago. I was like, hey, I'm thinking about getting this, you know, blue butterfly right on the sternum, you know, and then like I'll have maybe some lightning bolts coming out of it, and then later on I'm going to add in, you know, a cobra and a mongoose fighting each other. And he's like, all right. So anyway, I get in there, and he finally finishes the drawings by, you know, 7, 8 p.m. and we're tattooing before 9 p.m., probably 8 p.m. Oh, God damn. And he, like, I go over to look at what he's got, and he's drawn out from my arms out here all the way down, the mongoose and the cobra fighting each other, and the butterfly behind it. And it goes all the way down. Get up a little bit. You can see this. And so it goes all the way from here, all the way down. It covers up all my sternum, my chest, my titty nipples, you know, and then it goes around the ship and like all the way down and down onto my hips and then back up. And so there was supposed to be just a butterfly right there.
Yeah, I remember you telling me, oh, I'm going to go get this little butterfly. That's why when you sent me the pictures, I'm like, that's a whole fucking comic book. That's a graphic novel you just got put on your damn.
Oh man, it's massive. And I'm stoked because like, and what's cool is like, you know, when I go the last couple times I've gotten tattoos from him before. And so like, I've gotten the habit of like, okay, I know who this artist is. I know what they've done. You know, I've worked with them before. I want to collect their stuff. I like their style. And so I trust him. I'm like, hey man, this is what my idea is. I trust that you're going to make it better. I was not expecting him to be like, dude, we're going for it. We're going to get some real estate. He's like, we're going to connect all your tattoos up here. We're going to connect them down through. He's like, the goal for you is to do a full suit. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, let's fucking go. And it just starts. And he's like, just like build your own, like, you know, like machines, old biker. Like he's been doing like tattoos over in Ireland. Boy, you got to hear some of the stories about like, you know, some of the people he got mixed up with. And he was in the Corps, and he'd end up, that was his first wife, and he'd gotten divorced. And he ended up in Ireland. But for a time, he just would headbutt people when he would get to know them. And he would make fast friends in Ireland. But fantastic.
That's not the first Marine that I've heard do that. I had a buddy, Jackson, that would do that. That's how he said hi. He'd headbutt you, and it was So that seems to come par for the course.
Whatever it is, I like Marines. Like for whatever reasons, they're just like they're like the right ilk of people. And anyway, so we tattooed all night, and we finished up. I got back to the hotel by 4 a.m. today, and you know, I managed to get a little bit of rest. And I've just been trying to like, so if I'm making faces as I'm moving back and forth, you know, it's just because I'm in a bunch of pain, you know.
Yeah, and it's right on the front of your body.
Yeah.
That's why when you sent the picture, man, it was just, and it's a mongoose and a cobra.
Yeah.
And they're fighting.
And I was joking with him. I was like, yo, man, like, this is the motherfucking Mothra of butterfly tattoos.
Yeah, it's a whole scene out of them. No, and Dude, it's like that's across your, it's down your nipples, it's on your rib cage.
Oh, there was a ton around my nipples. Sweet Jesus. Oh, we were at the end of it, and he's tattooing. He's like, what do you think? I think you missed a spot. I'm like, well, let me take a look. I was like, oh, you better throw a little more on the nipples. He's like, yeah, I better. And I'm like, God damn it, I was fucking joking, man.
Jesus.
And like we get to the end, he's like, so at 2 a.m. he's like, I don't know, man, what you think? You want to throw some color in there? I was like, how much color are you thinking about getting through, homie? And like, I don't know, like maybe we'll start doing like the scales, like on the belly. And I was like, we were past 5 hours. We'd taken breaks, but like, honestly, like I've done a couple sessions where it's like, 8 hours at a time, 9 hours at a time. And that starts like it's uncomfortable. I mean, like and by uncomfortable, I mean I want to jump up off the table and run out the entire time.
Like I've never gotten, like, here's the thing, none of mine are over my ribs or my nipples. I have been in a chair for 5 hours.
Yeah.
I've been in a chair for 5 hours, and I can tell you that after 5 hours, and like mine, my worst was just under my arm.
Yeah.
And that was just, I told people, it's like it goes through this, like, there's that initial shock of like just the needles hitting you repeated amounts of times, and you're just kind of like, and you're getting over that like that first initial like annoying, and then when they start to put the color in it, the shading or whatever, your skin just becomes so raw that anything that touches it hurts. And like, I don't know how, like my artist was like, he would take like lotion or whatever on like one of those little makeup pads.
Yeah.
So if it was bleeding, and that's how he'd wipe it away to keep drawing. And he was basically kind of trying to keep moisture on the skin while wiping blood away.
Yeah.
Which I was really grateful for. But even that, when you're so many hours in, is just fucking ear. And then it comes in waves. There's like that initial, I remember when they got started, and they were especially when it went under my arm, I was like, holy shit, I don't know if I'll be able to, but then you get numb to that. So you're like, whatever. And we're talking or whatever. And then it goes to this point where it's raw, and then and it's fine for a little bit. And then it gets to the point where, like, I don't know if I can stand that anymore. And your eyes are watering, and then it goes like dull again. And then it's like these waves, and each of them, when they start, you're like, at least in my experience, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this for fucking 30 minutes. And I thought I was handling it like a complete pussy. I remember that. I was so embarrassed. And I told the guy, I said, hey man, have you had, because I had like the tears. No, I wasn't crying, but it was just like a nerve reaction was coming out.
Yeah.
And I remember joking around with him, like, am I a pussy for doing it? And he goes, you've been no-selling me for 5 hours. So like, in his mind, I'm not making any reaction, but you don't want to be the one that's, complaining. So you're just holding it still. And in my mind, I'm doing the worst job. Yeah. But he's just like, nah, man, you're actually doing all right. But it's like, you never want to ask, but it was like, there really was moments where I was about to be like, you know what, man, you gotta fucking stop. I can't, like, give me, but then, mine went on. When looking at yours, and you just always hear about how bad the rib cage is. Yeah. And nipples, are you shitting me? That's a nerve center. Like, I can't even imagine.
It's like, I felt them. That's like, that's all I can say. It's like, and like, people are always like, which one hurt the worst? You're like, look, all tattoos hurt. That's it. All your tattoos are gonna hurt. That's the end. That's the end of that answer. They all hurt the worst. All right. Good luck.
Yeah. What did my tattoo artist told me? He goes, well, yeah. I said, is this gonna be bad? And he goes, well, how did he word it? It was something like, there's multiple needles hitting your skin at 100 times per second or whatever. And he goes, yeah, man. I mean, it is what it is. It's needles are puncturing your skin.
Yeah, that's
this many, it's like, yeah, it's gonna fucking hurt, but it's like, you just gotta, like, and he was really cool about my tattoo artist. What I really liked is, and I'd known this guy, for years. And when I had first met him, he was strong arm atheist, dude. No concept of, didn't like God, organized religion, anything like that. And in his life, he'd met his wife, he'd settled down, and something had happened. He had some epiphany and he wasn't one of those guys where he, like, put it in your face. I had to almost ask him, I'm like, Kyle, do you go to church and shit now? And he's just like, oh yeah, man. And he, like, kind of told me this story, and it was like, and it was on his story, like, sometimes they always give you that story, like when they find God, it's like they were hit like a ray of sunshine, and it's like, oh, and then I I just knew. And his was
Yeah.
kind of more like just over time, things added up to where he was like, you know what, I'm gonna. But the thing that was in me growing up in Catholic school is some of the coolest art that you'll see is old like stained glass
Yeah.
designs and the Virgin Mary paintings and stuff. They're just so intricate and so cool. And so he collected Virgin Mary and saint statues. So I thought at first, like, oh, you found God, so these are your. And he was like, no, man, I actually just as an artist, I really enjoy looking at these.
Dude, I love churches like that. Like, there's really some fantastic stuff, and it's beautiful to see and just be around. You know, whether or not you're part of like that denomination or not. You know,
Just it's like it's seeing these designs, and they're so in detail. So in his shop, there's a corner. So he's in the corner, and you got a window where you can kind of see out into the town, and like that, you're just looking at these paintings, these statues, like these old. He found like some old statues that people used to like put in their yard and stuff, and that really distracted me, you know, in a good way, because you're just looking at, you know, and it's like I grew up in a very old church that had, you know, the way the buildings were built, the statues, all that. It had all that really great stuff, and I guess I just never appreciated it.
mm-hmm.
So looking back, it was like as I'm sitting there, I'm seeing statues that were also on my, you know, at my school growing up, and seeing it now like in a different perspective. You know, like you know, admiring the artwork, not being beaten over the head with the story, just looking at it for what it is. Just this. So he was cool. He was like, as he's tattooing me, we're just talking about like, you know, the different. He would tell me a little bit about the statues, where he got them from, things like that, what he liked about the work, and then I was asking him like how he perfected shading as a tattoo artist. And he was telling me how he used to buy pig ears from
Yeah.
the butcher shop, and that's how he'd practice on. And then I guess cantaloupe or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
because he's like, there's no substitute for human flesh. You know, it's like that's what you got, but there's other things you can try. You know, but he's like, you got to work on something, man. That's someone's fucking body. So it's like you better get your shit. But it was just neat, dude. It was super cool to see it, and I have such a respect. I have a couple friends that are he's and I haven't gotten to see him for years after he finished my last but I got to get mine done. So it's like if I ever end up in St. Petersburg is where your guys at?
St. Pete's, Florida, and he's a riot. Like, we were laughing the entire time. Like, I was laughing and groaning the entire time. And we were telling jokes. We listened to good music. There was a lot of Marty Robbins, Bo Diddley,
Bo Diddley.
yeah. And then there was what was it? He turned me on. He taught me or introduced me to Western swing, which is a type of music. But like we just went through like the gambit, and he's just, you know, I mean, there's a lot of really cool new tattoo artists that are out there, and they're doing new things, and it's very creative. I really respect that. I also really like that, you know, he, like Johnny Luck at Quality Tattooing in St. Pete's, is very much a living part of like Americana history, like, you know, and he's it's living history, not history. You know, a couple generations of military family, bikers, um, Marine Corps, you know, his grandpa, his dad, and I think him all. And, you know, he really appreciates his craft and what it is, you know, and he was, you know, tattooing in a time when it really was still a lot of like, you know, maybe not nefarious types, but maybe a lot of like, you know, outlaw kind of gangster shit. And by kind of, I mean, definitely.
Yeah, before all the culinary students started showing
Yeah,
up and getting full
yeah. And like
sleeves.
when tattoo shops were still illegal. Like, I went to a tattoo shop in Georgia one time. You know, it's funny, I had some time off. I was looking for a massage. The massage place was closed, but there's a tattoo shop next door. I was like, all right, let's go to a tattoo shop.
Yeah, like what a jump. You know, like I need something relaxing.
Yeah.
Maybe some deep tissue rubs. No, that's not open. I'm gonna go have someone put
It's my
fucking
day
needles
off.
into my body.
It's my day off. I'm looking for a burrito, a tattoo, or a massage, whichever one I find first.
That is so all over the place, but then I wouldn't expect anything different from you. But
But anyway, I mean, they were open. I went in, and like they were like, I was like, hey, I mean, can you, work on some of this stuff, up here, or, like this is what I've been feeling like, hey, we can't tattoo, above the neck, or I can't fill in anything above the head because it's considered defacing public property and graffiti. And I was like, what? Like, you're shitting me, right? Like, it's illegal to tattoo me. And they're like, we can't do that tattoo. We can't do this tattoo. We can't do this tattoo. I can't do your hands. I can't do your fingers. I can't do this and that and that and that.
So anything that is visible outside of clothing, basically.
I don't know. It was some weird regulations, and
Was it near a base? Was it near like a military base?
No, it wasn't near a military. It was just Georgia.
Oh,
and
shit,
Georgia. They also don't want to sell you liquor on Sundays. And I was like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, Bible Belt, homie. That's
like,
Bible
give
Belt.
me that bottle of wine right fucking now, you little old lady. Like, I am drinking that shit. Anyway, that's a different story, different time. But like, he was tattooing when a lot of this it was even still, illegal in New York, but people were doing it. And he had gotten a tattoo over, Ireland and over in Paris for a bit, and worked some different conventions and scenes when it still was kind of up and coming. And it wasn't like this very like, it's a completely different scene now, I think, from what it was. It was outlawed. There was regulations. You weren't allowed to, all sorts of things. So it's really interesting that he, was in contact with a lot of these. He was learning from these different guys, where it was really either just kind of gangster and military was a lot of where the tattoos ended up.
And just to touch on that, a lot of what people got to realize is when it comes to when you take, like you were talking about bikers and military, those worlds really are more connected than people think. A lot of biker gangs or biker affiliations were all former military. They'd gotten out, either it was post-war or whatever, and that unity and camaraderie that they had with it carried over, and they're like, let's get some motorcycles. I think there's, even with Hell's Angels and stuff, there's a tie back to military. Yeah. So those worlds, like as you were saying that's the first thing that clicked. It's like, that would make sense. That you're, like that because think of it, it's literally like it's a brotherhood, it's a family. And then a lot of the guys, when they got home from war, got home from deployment, and they still kept that group. And then a lot of times it carried on over to bikers, or in some cases bank robbers and stuff too.
It's Hello Kitty on a 13-year-old's face.
Yeah.
Whatever. Okay. It's new. It's changed. It has. That's already happened. So it's really interesting to see that. But anyway, so that was my night. And but you had it, and you catching up with you had a show.
Yeah, I did. So I got to close out, or they say headline, but I don't like saying that, because to me, headlining is you're the person that you're the attraction. So normally the attraction of the show is who people go to see, and then you have the acts before them, and then they close it out. But they're usually the ones they advertise and everything like that. Yeah. I'm a nobody, so I did close out the show. I guess I was technically the headliner, but it was just a fun opportunity to get up there and do a lot of extra time and kind of explore. You when you're the last guy, you got to close it out right. At least in my mindset, like that's always even with wrestling, it was like when I was the main event, you have to do good. You can't suck. That's what you're sending everyone home with. So there's that pressure. And like with me, I watch the shows, I watch the other comics, and I try to make sure I do something that they don't do. So it's sometimes you just kind of you adjust to the show itself. So in this case, it was really easy. I had like a bunch of it was mostly female, and a couple of them had like either specials that they released on Amazon or one that was coming out. So it was like I wasn't even the one with like the highest credits, but for some reason they put me at the end. I think it's because I've just been performing there long enough that they can trust me. But it was neat. And then we also had Janice Silver back, which was she's like in her 80s. She's a comedian. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, she's funny. That's my homegirl. But she, it's so I think the only other guy that we had on the show, we had two more. And it was funny because I realized something, dude, and I even said this on stage, like how dumb men are compared to women. Like why we get caught in all our bullshit from them. So dude, when I'm sitting in the green room, I'm drinking my coffee, everybody's coming in, so they're just sitting there, and one of the comics says to the other comic, oh my God, hey, how are you? We did a show 3 months ago, oh yeah, that's right. She goes, hey, yeah, I remember you were wearing, and she told her what she was wearing that 3 months prior. She knew. That same green room, I'm talking to the other guy comic. We're talking back and forth for about 25 minutes. I happen to have a blue flannel shirt on.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden he stops. He goes, well, I guess I'll take my flannel off. I didn't even realize he had a flannel on. And I was talking to him for 25 straight minutes.
Yeah.
I didn't know he had the same kind of shirt on. These women knew what each other was wearing 3 months prior. So I was like, at that point, I told him, I said, you want to know why we get caught fucking up all the time? Because these chicks are like goddamn CIA agents. They remember everything. But they were sweet. It was funny. It was a fun show. I got some friends that came out to see it and that, and then I went to work right after, which is always kind of my favorite thing to do because it's like I'm in a pretty good mood whenever that happens. I like stand-up comedy is my therapy. It's like you go get tattooed and it just you leave, you feel great. When
Yeah,
I do
something like
stand-up,
that. Or I mean, I got home and I was like, "Oh my fucking god!"
okay,
I'm
well,
gonna lay here and not move.
physically you feel bad. But like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. That is there like this euphoric, like although it hurts physically, you feel I don't know, at least
I
I
feel like
can't
I
speak
earned
for you.
something.
Yeah. So you feel
I feel like going through the pain, I earned it. It's like I had the mental fortitude to lay down and do something that is completely irrational. Um,
Mhm.
it was funny. We were laughing back and forth about it, and we're like, "Yeah, we do it to get chicks." And you're like, "Man, chicks better dig these tattoos because otherwise, what the fuck am I doing, man?" But really, like it is for me, and like I do enjoy it, and I do love the art. And like more and more, like as I get older, my priorities. We talked a lot about this as for tattooing. My priorities have been shifting, and I've been trying to kind of let go of things, that are not as important or aren't benefiting or helpful in my life. And recognizing, and actually, a big part of like this tattoo, that this was the conversation we were having was, the whole butterfly and transformation. And I had like one of the quotes in here, like as I was reading through some of this stuff, like we were talking about, just kind of a change in your life, and it's okay, to have that change and to be moving forward. And there was one that stood out was what a caterpillar calls the end of the world, the master calls a butterfly. That was Richard Bach. He did the Bridge Across Forever, Illusions, a few other books. But anyway, um, it was just this cool idea of looking at things in a different way. But we talked a lot about letting go of old scenarios and scenes, and I think that might actually tie in. Like I don't want to cut you off from the other night, but also leading to we've done our 10-minute catch up.
yeah.
And bullshit, and we're gonna get to the point. But like the original, and I'll let you get back to the show and us being caught and being dipshits as men. But I think that this is part of what we want to talk about. This today we wanted to address feeling silly and embarrassment and taking that risk to be willing to be embarrassed, or how to cope when you're feeling like maybe you are embarrassed and maybe there's some ostracization and you're feeling uncomfortable or things like that. And we'll get into more details about that. But I think a big part of that, that letting go process isn't just letting go of scenarios or people or scenes or things that may not be so good for you, but it's also internal. And I think part of that is letting go of what people think of you so much. And I actually there's I wouldn't we actually do read and do research for these episodes. But one thing I found was I'm sorry, like I don't have it in front of me, but there's like psychoanalytically, there is this state of the mental state usually in like teenage years, where you think everyone is watching everything you're doing, and slowly you grow out of that because and you realize nobody's fucking watching what you're doing. However, we've entered into this new world where there's TikTok and the ability to broadcast that, where there are millions of views for, or however many views. So you are now having people watch, and it almost like they're trying to figure out how that's going to impact the psychology on a broad scale for, all these people, because this is something you should grow out of. And it's been a natural progression that you think this at a particular time for whatever reasons. It's kind of a norm they've been able to assess, but it's something that you grow out of. And I'm starting to wonder, is it going to be something that, not just me wondering, but is it going to be something we grow out of? But anyway, it goes back to learning how to let go of, what other people, you think other people are thinking of you, and you can't control that. And that's a tough one to learn, but I think that's the big one that I kept on coming back to in everything that I read is you can't control this. You can't control what other people think or what they judge. You can try, if there's something wrong, you can try and correct it. And, that is by all means, you should do that. But in the end, you can't make someone think something. You can't, and this would permeate much broader, social issues that we're, coming to today, where everybody's trying to make the other person, think the way you think. And you're like, look, people are going to think differently, and that's good. That's healthy. You're going to disagree. But, at the same time, you have to be okay with, maybe like, hey, I don't agree, or I don't see things the same way, or, maybe because I don't see things the same way, it's okay. I don't need to be embarrassed about how I feel or how I think, because I think somebody else, or the majority thinks something. A lot of times that'll be it. You think the majority thinks this, and there's oftentimes, I think there's a correlation with ostracization of an individual and thinking that they're alone, but they're really not. And I think a lot of this connectivity is also allowing people to realize that maybe they're not alone in a lot of ways that they thought they were, and they shouldn't be embarrassed. And I would, as we're talking about, this is what's so good about this, by the way, Dan. I don't get to talk about these things that are going on in my life. Really hard to deal with scenarios that I think a lot that I don't think, but I'm finding out that holy shit, everybody's having a hard time. And I was embarrassed about it, and I didn't want to tell anybody, and I was ashamed, like, oh, I'm having a hard time with this. And I'm, adjusting to being a new parent, and, there's nothing negative, like, it's not like, oh, this is a bad thing. I love it. I want to be there for I want to change diapers. I want to pay bills. I want to, do all these things, like wake up in the middle of the night, go take care of him. He won't go to sleep. Okay. He's crying. Okay. Well, take care of these things, and also your relationship with your partner, and, how you can manage, that. And it turns out that, I found out that there's most parents and families, with their first kid, get hit with a lot. And it transforms the relationship. And again, transformation isn't necessarily a death, like the death for the caterpillar is just it becoming a butterfly. It's becoming something new. But as I've been able to talk in this podcast and, admit that, oh man, I'm not doing so well in these areas, and I'm having trouble. And then all of a sudden, I talked to a couple friends, leading up to this, like, hey, we're going to talk about embarrassment in the podcast. Hey, I'm going through this in my life. Have you ever gone through this? And the more people I ask, as soon as I open up the door and say, I'm going through this, they're like, well, yeah, I've been through that. I'm talking from my grandpa, who's 83 years old, to some of my friends, who have successful lives and running businesses and kids, to friends that are still single, and, both male and female, heterosexual, non, what I mean? Like, everybody seems to be going through similar stages, and they're not new things in this world. That was a bit of a rant, but we can go back to why we get caught with shit. I think I cut you off at the comedy show.
No, that was it. Hey, I like what you had to say. And like I said, in the future, and like I said, I think next episode, we're going to dive into exactly what you just said. The embarrassment, because we always talk about that, the embarrassment. We'll get more into that. We'll get more into kind of what we thought was the end of the world, in these little scenarios, and you find out it's really not. It's just the beginning of something, what seems like the end of something, it can be the very beginning of something great, and I agree with you on that. And it was Also, I think what can tie into it too is it's just people's what they analyze, what they prioritize as far as what they look at. You know, it's like I think men are so like we're kind of just like in the moment. It's a moment of survival. Like, what do we need to do right now to do this, to get that, to get that? You know, we do have moments where we do reflect, but it's not constantly. To whereas I think like the women's mind is mostly in a consistent analyzing of not always in the moment. You know, I think they're always kind of there, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I think that's what I think that's what makes us work so well together, is what we are completely oblivious to. They're 100% on. So no, I love it, and that's why being in that green room and watching that was so different. It was one of the only times where I'm like sitting there and I'm just listening to all them talk. You know, it's just like there's a few ladies there, and they're just all talking, and it's like we're talking different ages, different experiences, different, and kind of watching that happen as I'm sitting there with this guy, and I realize that he and I are much simpler uh beings. We're much simpler species. Like he and I could literally sit there, we could like think about something, we could look around. We don't always have to constantly be communicating.
Mm-hmm.
To whereas I felt like these ladies really wanted to share and communicate. They really wanted to get the most out of each other. They really were looking into each other a lot more than maybe he and I were. You know, I think that it's an emotional intelligence. It's a uh, it definitely shows our differences, and I think it's great. I think it's really cool, and that's why when I got on stage, I even said it. I said, this shows the differences, and it shows why they're so great. Like it shows like why, and this is where my whole thing, like we kind of went into that same discussion of gender roles. Okay, I'm one of these people where I feel gender roles are 100% good, and I think that they are needed. Now, with that being said, I'm not saying that men have to be men, women have to be women. It could be whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I just think there needs to be kind of that feminine or that masculine, that emotionally intelligent to that, mechanically intelligent, or that, you know what I'm saying? Like, kind of, there needs to be that balance. I think there's that balance that's talked about in all of society. Whether it's yin and yang, whether it's there's the counterparts. So with me being that being said, like I said, I if there's men that are born that wish that are probably more feminine, then fine. Embrace that feminine side, be that feminine side to our personalities. I think it's great. But it showed it. It definitely showed it. And it's like sometimes guys just need to be you need to be the minority in the room. Yeah. And you need to like just shut the fuck up and listen and just watch them because they're fascinating. And I'm not saying that in like a way of belittling them or anything like that. It's really cool. It just, if you want to see something, like I guess you would call that sociology, or it's just to watch how they interact, to watch how they do things, and then to kind of reflect on us. It's like we're talking right now, yeah, and but like even in this discussion, like I said, you and I really have to put it out there for us to trade ideas. Whereas I think sometimes these women can literally have like a very surface level conversation and pick up more about each other in that surface level education, or in that conversation, that you and I would literally have to pick and discuss and bring that out, because it's not natural to us.
Well, I think that you also might see the world in different ways too. Just and we'll come back to maybe some of these. I know I was working on a book. It's a cheesy title, but it was the seven keys to a successful marriage. I had been working through that. I was gonna get married. I was like, I'm gonna do a good job of this. I'm gonna find the information. I'm gonna try and be a good husband. And when I worked through that, there was actually a lot of studies, male and female, and there was a lot of similarities, and there's also some differences. And like allowing that, and I think that talking about gender roles, that might be a whole nother podcast right there. But I think that I've seen it be very different in other countries compared to the United States, and so there's cultural gender roles that are maybe kind of pressed upon us a little bit more. And I can tell you, it varies from country to country dramatically. I mean, like you go, like, we think, oh, it's really maybe so bad here, but I mean, like, it's not like you can't drive a car if you're a woman. You know, I mean, like that's really that's on that far scale of things, you know. But there's also coming back to where there's balance. And you know, it's funny. I always told people, it's like I cry at every Disney Pixar movie way more than my wife does. And I was like, and I'll punch you in the face if you want to fight about it. You know, how about that? You know, so it doesn't have to be this like, you know, oh, I'm just this one way or the other. You can have this balance. And boy, you know what? I think we're gonna have to do an entire episode just on this.
Oh, we will. We'll definitely. We'll hit
Especially because I'm looking at it as a man raising a son. And so I'm really going in and analyzing a lot of things. Like maybe it's one of the things we can wrap on and that I think is good. But I don't know if we already talked about it, but circumcision in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had a kid before. I've never had a son before. And so like I just assumed, hey, you know, it's common to get circumcised in the United States. They'll get circumcised. And like somebody asked me about it, and they're like, "Are you going to get him circumcised?" I was like, "Yeah, isn't that, you know, what you do? You know, it's healthy, medical reasons, whatever." And like they look at me like, "There's no medical reasons why you should be doing that." I was like, "Fuck off, man! You're shitting me." You know, like, what are you talking about? He's like, "No, you need to go look into this." There was a campaign, back in the day, in order that they were hoping that it might reduce masturbation and sexual deviancy. And so it became like this policy they were trying to. We'll go into more depth about it, but basically marketing and you know, social like marketing. And what happened is it caught on, and more people just were doing it. It became common practice. And I go to the doctor, you know, before my son's born. I'm like, "Hey, doctor, I heard this crazy shit. You know, like, is this real? Like, set me straight. Obviously, my son should be circumcised." And my doctor looks at me and she's like, "No, no." And I'm like, whoa, stop. You misunderstood the question. I'm saying, tell me the medical reason why, you know, my son should be, you know, circumcised. She's like, "I'm sorry, but it's only cultural. There is no medical reason that you need to be doing this for your son." And I was like, "You got to be shitting me." And so I think that the idea that I'm coming across, and you know, there's a couple other books I'm working on for this podcast, but is that there's these ideas that we've been given, and they're broadly accepted as just the norm. Even something as you know, radical as chopping off part of your infant son's dick, you know, immediately after being born, like slice that off, you know, and like that becoming normal. And like when you stop and you're like, whoa, there is not a medical reason for that we're doing this, and we're continuing to do it on a broad scale. That seems dramatic. That seems intense. That seems, you know, and so like for me, that influenced my decision. I was like, okay, we don't want to go that route. I'm not going to reveal, you know, like those kinds of things about.
Wait a minute, I'm interested in that because
no.
I've been told quite the opposite. Like and I'm going to give you an experience on why.
Yeah.
When we were going to go to Iraq, one of our guys who was not circumcised,
yeah,
they wanted him to get a circumcision because they were saying that literally the smegma that's inside the head of an uncircumcised penis is a breeding ground for bacteria. So him going over there and catching new bacteria, he would have to constantly be scrubbing. And then they showed us the pictures, like and these are doctors showing them, where literally the infection takes over into the penis.
Yeah.
It's fucked up. And it's like, and I'm not saying that, here's the deal. If you're in the United States or you're in like a first world, something like that, obviously you're not going to be running into any of that stuff. So, but
I want to know more about this now.
They were pretty clear about that. And I've heard people say that a couple times, and like, I've been told the opposite. I've never been told that it must be this way or it must be that way.
Yeah.
It really comes down to culture. And I 100% agree with that. But what I've also been told is if you have an uncircumcised penis, you have to keep cleaning it. You have to clean the smegma out. Like, and that's not something that's still.
Would some people write into us and tell us about this?
So if you
how often are you Q-tip swabbing the
yeah. So at the very least, if you have to do maintenance more to an uncircumcised penis, because I don't have to clean shit other than stand in the shower. I'm not saying that it is a life or death thing. I'm not saying that it's and I think that if you really don't want to manipulate
you can change it from just water. You should scrub that shit.
I just fucking let it. I probably should, especially my dick. But I'm not. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that that it's something that's so dire and important and everything like that. And here's the thing, doctors could probably also give you a lot of examples on what other risks you may take while circumcising. Like, yeah, okay, maybe that one part is true. You don't have the smegma, you don't have that, but a circumcised penis also is more likely to get this and that and that. And I don't know the medical side of that, so I cannot comment on that. But I can say firsthand that I was standing there like with one of our guys, Tehran, and they were telling him, yeah, man, like you're getting ready to go over to the desert and there's bacteria over there. It's not over here. You have an uncircumcised dick. Like, this is what could happen.
Okay.
So, like, you have a choice. You could either be over there and clean the shit out of that thing all the time, or you could just get the circumcision, not have to worry about it. But they're telling them this at 20-something years old. So it's like, that's why I don't know. And here's my thing. I don't know if it's now also a lot of my buddies that are Latino, none of them are circumcised.
Yeah.
None of them are circumcised. And they're all right. You know what I mean? Like, they're fine. Everything's great. So it's like, I'm wondering if that's just like, while you're living in the United States, while you're here, while you're that, it's a non-issue at all.
All right.
I'm saying, like, I think there is
now I have to go research dicks. Now I have to go research a bucket of dicks.
Well, now I want to go. I'm going to be staring at uncircumcised dicks all the time. I'm going to be staring because I want to figure out if you know what I mean? Here's the thing. I've learned this shit over the last year and a half. Medical propaganda gets thrown around quick as shit. And people that are doctors are full of shit. And they just bring in their own personal feelings and they ignore actual evidence. Yeah. And they just go. So very much so, what my buddy was getting told could have been hugely misinformed.
Well, and I could have been misinformed. So this is great about getting these conversations going. Be like, whoa. Now we got to do something on this. I think that I'd like to tie this one into maybe like, raising men and masculinity and gender roles. I think that'll be a good one coming up that we can
I think it's just because it's like, you're right. We don't discuss it. And it's like, how much of it have we been indoctrinated?
Yeah.
And how much of it is actual fact?
Yeah.
And I would like to find out. Like, I really would. That's an interest. Like, when you're telling me that, I'm like, fuck. And now I'm thinking about is either someone's and I don't want to say someone's lying. That's a terrible. One of those doctors is misinformed or is not. Either way, it needs to be addressed because I know a ton of people that are not circumcised.
Yeah.
And they're fine. I don't ever hear anything bad of it.
Yeah.
The one instance that I did have was the one we were going to Iraq, and she addressed it with him. And I do know offhand that, like, my friends that are uncircumcised have to make sure that they clean the tip of that bitch. Like, they got to get in there and do it. To me, if you have to specialize attention to it, not that it's a big deal, but there is a medical or bacterial reason for that. Yeah. Doesn't mean it's life or death. Doesn't mean it's anything like that. And like I said, there could be other risks that the circumcised penis is presented with that the uncircumcised isn't. So it's like
this is the real
there
question
really could be.
We're like, I'm gonna be turning 39, in a couple months. I don't know. I don't have a definitive answer one way or the other. If medically speaking, I need to chop the tip of any of my son's dicks off.
Me neither. I don't know if we should cut your son's dick off.
That seems like I should be pretty 100% on this and be like, hey kid, I decided to chop off part of your dick when you were born. Okay, this is why. I should be able to look him in the face and be like 110%. This was the right thing to do, instead of being like, I just mailed it in. I didn't do a quick cursory Google search. I didn't ask a couple more doctors. I didn't. I should be able to have a definitive answer. And like, if we're, like, I'm surprised that, like, between the two of us, we don't have more, like, this is.
Well, it's like you said, we don't. It's not something that is openly discussed. It's like,
yeah, but I'm also not a proctologist,
Yeah, it's like, but it's like we just go with it. Like, I didn't have a choice. It was gone when I grew up. My dick was, so I had no other choice than to just go with it. And I never questioned it because there's nothing I could do to reverse it. I haven't had a kid.
This is the norm, and you're like, why does your dick look so weird in the showers? And like, what's funny is, like, it's like, remember when we were in the Czech Republic and we had our day off and they took us to a water park? There was some bullshit. But anyway,
You didn't like the water park? I loved the water park. I
the
loved
water
how
park
that
was fun.
kid yelled
But
at
you're
you.
just like, this is where you're taking us on our day off. You know, like we're in Europe and you want to take me to a water park. You know, and like the pee pools. Okay, whatever. I'm gonna enjoy it, but you guys
Yeah.
are dicks. You know, let me out of here. Where do you guys go on your day off? Anyway, I remember we were all in like board shorts. We were the Americans in board shorts, and every other man there, young and old, was in speedos, and they were looking at us like we were some kind of pervert.
Like we were weird. Yep.
We were weird because we were wearing shorts. And so there's things like that. It's like those perceptions of, embarrassment or feeling like ostracized, or what's the majority and what's wrong and right. And should I feel awkward about these things? So I think that'll be the primary for like the next episode for like the
I like that. No, we
But
definitely, I'm just taking notes on things I want to, because I think that's a great idea. And right when you bring that up, you're absolutely right. Dude, the fact that they didn't need lifeguards on the water slides because the kids listened. They
I
just
don't remember
followed that clock. Oh, yeah, you don't remember getting lectured by that girl?
No.
That is one of my, because when Brad turned around to me and she goes, "Excuse me, sir, you're not supposed to go until the clock is on green," or something like that. And she was telling you very like matter of fact, was like this proper child. And
lo and behold, we really weren't listening to much of what they were telling us.
Oh, absolutely. And then Brad just turns around to me and he goes, "I don't think this little girl understands who she's talking to." He goes, "Abram's gonna drown that little motherfucker." That's one of my favorite, like, because it was like we were just having fun. We were doing what we normally do, but they had rules on the wall. It was like, don't go down head first, don't do that, or whatever. And these kids like were just following it, dude. It was like to a T. And I was just amazed because normally our kids, like, and shit, we were adults and we were breaking the rules. And they were like that. When there's this little girl, probably about, 11, 12 years old. And yeah, Abram, I don't know if you like were getting ready to go when it was red, or I don't know, but she was like, "Excuse me, sir." It wasn't like, and it wasn't that she was being mean. And, she, with her little accent, which, I mean, we weren't in America. I don't know why I had to bring that up, but she said, "You're supposed to wait to," and it was just funny. And like, from what I remember, Abrams, like when she said it to you, you were just kind of like, "Oh, really?" And you're like, she's like, "Yeah." And then she like,
yeah,
and
well,
you're,
I mean,
"Oh, okay." Like you're
A
fine.
period in my
Yeah,
life.
it wasn't like a big deal. It was almost cute.
Said, like, don't hit the big red button, and you're like,
yeah, I got to do it now. But it was it was like, dude, it was fucking cute. It was almost cute that this little girl's like, "Excuse me, sir." And just like, and then, but dude, when Brad was staying next to me, he goes, "I don't think this little motherfucker knows who she's talking to." She's like, Abram's going to fucking throw her ass down. But
lo and behold, we did not abuse any or attack any of like the staff at that water pool that day.
No, hell no.
We were loud and obnoxious, though. I am certain of that.
Well, yeah, but that was kind of our. Remember when we went to that? And I won't go too far on this, but it was definitely a big difference in culture that I realized that in the Czech Republic, everybody really kept the discussions down to tables, and they didn't really venture, and they were very respectable of each other's experience. The only place that I remember that we were really enjoyed was we went to that one restaurant to watch the end of a World Cup game. And that Italian guy was running the restaurant and he was real loud. He's like, "Ah!" And like Johnny was yelling back to him. And you could tell this guy was so excited because like he's normally the loud one, in the Czech Republic. And like the fact that we had Americans there to be loud with, he was so excited. And it was, yeah, I remember just laughing. I was like, we found the one guy who feels as awkward as we do about, like, when everyone looks at us while we're being so loud. And it was this guy from Italy, and that was his restaurant. I remember that. And we just stopped in. I forgot what we were doing, but someone wanted to see the score of the game, and we like walked down, and we were in there, and Johnny went in to, I don't know how it got started, but he starts being loud, and the other guy like comes out, and he was like yelling to him, like, "Hey, are you Americano?" or whatever. And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Ah!" And they're both going back and forth, and everyone else is crowded into this like little cafe, and they're just like looking around like, "What the fuck is wrong with these two? Like, why are they?" But it was just such a difference, man. But I dug it, man. Me being kind of getting to the point of being a quiet guy anyways. I don't want to go on too much. But yeah, back to what you're saying. The show was great. Had a great time. Really funny comics. Put me in a great mood. Anytime that I do stand up, like we were talking about before, it's like It's nerve-wracking. You want to do well. You want to do all that. But whenever I leave, when I'm done, it's like the whole rush of getting out there and wondering how I'm going to do and then doing well, getting the feedback. It's such a like a cleansing. I would say spiritual cleansing, spiritual enrichment. I don't know. I'm trying to sound smart. I'm not. I leave feeling on top of the earth.
That's awesome.
That's my outlet. That is my outlet. I can do it all the time. And speaking of shows, I am going to be back in St. Louis on the weekend of Thanksgiving. So I think Thursday through Sunday. So I think it's like 5 or 6 shows or whatever, which is fun. So it's great to go home, visit the family, and then get to do the St. Louis Funny Bone, which is like the club that, I worked at before I came here, and just to get home. It's like, they're like my family too. So it's like, you get to go home, you go to your home city, you see your actual family, go get to see your comedy family, and you perform in front of like a St. Louis crowd, which like, I miss them. It's great. It's definitely a different, but it like, in another, I think like I keep saying cleansing. I don't want to be like that, but like a recharging, because definitely when you're out here, it's like sometimes you have some killer crowds and you just have a good time and you can let loose. But a lot of times it's like people that are just at the comedy clubs because they're just supposed to be at a comedy club. You know what I mean? Like they're not even really there to see. It's the place to be, so they just go there. And they're not always wanting to have fun, or they're so scared of what is
people go to a comedy club to not have fun and not laugh.
Yep. In LA, everyone's so fucking worried about how they look to other people that like literally, even if they think something is funny, they'll like look around to see if they can laugh first, because they don't want to be judged. Because God forbid if you laugh at something and you don't take it 100%, you're a piece of shit. That's a reflection of how you.
Because I laugh way loud at everything. I think fucking hilarious.
I say,
I'll be your laugh track.
Yeah, I go there with the intention to have fun and just say, and no one takes it serious. That's why I like going to St. Louis. That's why I like going to other places, because when you tell jokes, they still realize it's jokes and they're not worried about how they look by laughing at jokes, and they just have fun.
Nice.
It's people that are actually, have real shit to worry about, families, work, all that. So when they go to a comedy club, they're there to have a good time and unwind, and they understand that what's being said on a fucking stage in a comedy club is not an actual social commentary. And the fact that if you look to a comedian to be your fucking moral compass, then you're an idiot. And you should, but in Los Angeles, they haven't figured that out yet. Everybody's trying to show everybody how fucking woke and great they are. So they can turn anything into a shitty time. But the show I just had, awesome. That was not the case at all. Not the case. So much fun. I was saying a lot of off-colored shit. And it was, you know what, man, you would think that I would have gotten and they loved it. Like it was, I'm looking at a couple of people in the crowd when I'm saying it, and I'm like, this is going to probably rub their ass a little wrong. Like this is not going to, and I look over and they're laughing harder than anybody. And it's like, that's fucking awesome. I love that. That's fun. So it's good. So it was a good night. And I'm excited. I'm going home. Like I said, Thanksgiving weekend. I don't know who the headliner is going to be there yet.
What's the name of the club?
St. Louis Funny Bone. So the St. Louis Funny Bone is one of the only comedy clubs outside of New York and Los Angeles that it's the oldest. I think it's the oldest. So it's pretty legendary. Like comedians, all comedians know about it. A lot of them have, everyone from Dave Chappelle to fucking Gary Shandling, they've all performed there. It's been there since 1980, I believe. So it's fun. It's legendary. It has its own kind of like mystique about it. And so going back there, getting to even work there, that was my first open mic was there. So starting off there and getting to work there and getting to know these people, it's such an institution in comedy, and it's an institution in St. Louis in itself. So it's already has so it's an honor to be there. And then on top of that, man, I just love St. Louis crowds. I love St. Louis audiences. I love Midwest. I'll be honest with you. I love Midwest. I even like East Coast. And I'm not saying I don't like West Coast. I do like West Coast. It's just like when you're in Hollywood or you're in the vicinities of Hollywood, you got to watch it, because it's a bunch of people are all fucking narcissists, and it's just bullshit. But
I just need to come to your shows. You'll be fine. I'll come.
No, when you came out when I was at the Comedy Store, that shit was fun. That was my favorite.
We'll unlock those buttholes,
dude. when you came to see me, when I was at the Funny Bone on Friday, or excuse me, when I was at the Comedy Store on Friday nights on Sunset Strip, that place is fucking awesome. That place is fun. That's one of those places you can just do whatever the fuck you, and like everyone is. So I don't want to tie that in. You came to one of my favorite places to ever perform. So yeah, you got to witness that. So that definitely wasn't. It's just some of these other, and it's kind of more or less now, and it's not all the time. I don't want to bitch about it. It's just kind of, but as much as I'm bitching about it, like I said, the last week when I had the show, there was people there that were, or it was Tuesday, excuse me. It was just this past Tuesday. There was people there that were, I thought for sure we're gonna be like, oh fuck, here we go. This is gonna be, they're gonna not think anything's funny. And they were rolling, dude. They were into everything. So also I could be overanalyzing it too, but it was fun. St. Louis Funny Bone, November, I believe 24th. When's Thanksgiving? 24th, 25th?
Sure, why not?
So like the 24th to the 27th.
It's usually on Thursday, right?
Yeah. So I'll be at the Funny Bone, I think the 24th to the 27th of November. 2 shows on Friday, 2 shows on Saturdays, 1 on Sunday, 1 on Thursday. So cool. If you're in St. Louis and you're hearing this or you're near St. Louis, go to their website, stlouisfunnybone.com. And check it out.
And if you're in St. Pete's, Florida, go down to visit Johnny Luck.
I'm going to fucking see Johnny Luck the next time I was wanting to check out Florida dates anyways, because a buddy of mine's, he's out of there now doing comedy and he loves it. So I'm having him get me into some clubs. If I'm anywhere near St. Pete's, I'm going to see Hip Daddy Johnny Luck.
You're gonna have a good time with Johnny Luck.
I want to sit in his chair for 12 hours, and I'm like, Johnny, I just need you to put this little I want a bird on my shoulder, and then fucking by the end of it, I got a goddamn dragon on my back eating fucking Tokyo. All right, buddy. Is there anything else that you want to?
No, I really appreciate it. This was a nice catch up one. We got to read. Our goal was, do a catch up on emails and like the listener feedback. There's some other ones that I wrote down. Maybe we'll just give a shout out in the beginning of the next episode. But this was a nice warm up and kind of like, we're just trying to catch up. I'm still on the road. Dan's been doing shows. We're working through that. So trying to get schedules together, and we're looking forward to being back in. I'm looking forward to being back in the studio. In particular, I'm hoping, I might be able to pick up a couple, get up to back to our studio in Montana, and set everything up a little bit, but also being able to try, and I'm going to be trying to set up maybe also a location down in Los Angeles, so I can maybe be, still maintaining our business up there and, and whatnot, while still like working on business down in LA. So we're expanding that, working on it, but right now on tour, I appreciate you working with the schedule. And this was a good one. I got a bucket of dicks to go research now.
Yeah, no, I am too. I'm really excited. That really. So the next episode we'll cover up on embarrassment, differences in a symbolism in society, and then penises. We're gonna at least listen. We're not medical doctors, but we're at least gonna gather evidence on both sides, and then throw it in and see what the fuck people, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. I think that's a cool. Because men, we should be a little bit more vigilant of that now, and we're not. But
yeah, dude.
Let's do that.
Every man out there should know the answer to this 100%. It should not be a question for anybody, unless it's like a cultural, like religious thing. Like, okay, cool, that's clear. All right, religion does this. Yeah, we chop off our dicks and we wear this kind of a hat. Cool. All right, I can dig that. That's part of the religion. Whatever you got to do. Why are there always hats? I don't know. Whatever.
I don't know, but that goes into another thing.
And different, religions, like big dick, pointy ones, like, and then the other guy's got like the one's red, one's white, it's got different shapes, but they're all, these.
I think it's so you can see him from far away, and you're like, that guy's that guy. He's that guy.
That's actually a really good point. It's very distinguishing. It's like, it's the guy with the big penis hat. Yeah.
It's so that like if you're out in the kingdom, like if you're in the Pope guys, the bishop's coming, he has a big hat. Everyone's like, oh shit, put away all the gambling stuff. The bishop's coming. The bishop's coming.
All right, so we got some research. We'll be getting back to you on embarrassment.
One more thing before we go. Also, I touched base with the gentleman for FOB Razor to do veteran suicide. So
Yeah.
we're looking at like we'll shoot out a day between probably in the next couple weeks where we will interview with him too. So that's coming into the future too. So next one we'll hit is like embarrassment, penises, and then but eventually what we're working towards is a really cool organization that kind of helps combat and give services to veterans who are for veteran suicide or veteran assistance with mental health and stuff too. So that's coming in the future. We have an interesting guest coming on that matter as well.
Cool.
All right. Well, rest up, dude, because I know that, you know.
I'm going to go lotion. I'm going to go lotion like Wild Bill is, you know, making me do it.
All right, my man. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time on Dan and Abram vs. Life.